Star Bowling with the top bowling stars of America. Brought to you by Hi there, everyone, and welcome to Top Star Bowling, and welcome to the Hoffman Lanes, the very well-conditioned Hoffman Lanes here in Hoffman Estates, Illinois, just outside of Chicago. I'm Jack Buck, and each week it'll be my pleasure to introduce to you the top bowling stars from around the nation. And by the way, some ladies will be participating in our show in the weeks ahead, and we're very happy that you tuned us in, and I'm quite certain you're going to enjoy the show. This is a $40,000 TV series, a lot of money involved, and each week the winning bowler receives $1,000 and $500 to the loser. We're going to have a lot of fun today because we have two great bowlers to present to you. And before we meet them, I'd like to mention that this particular tournament is sanctioned by the American Bowling Congress. Mr. Al Matzel is here on behalf of the ABC, and we'd like to meet him right now. Mr. Al Matzel. Al, how you doing?
How are you? Jack, we've checked all the equipment out here to see that it meets ABC specifications. We found it all in good order and good shape, and so I'm very happy to present to you the official sanction document for Top Star Bowling.
Thank you very, very much.
You're quite
welcome,
welcome,
Al.
Jack. Thank you.
And I accept this, of course, on behalf of everyone associated with the show. And now, before I introduce the two bowlers, let me tell you a bit more about it. This is a King of the Hill format. Winner stays around to take on a challenger in the forthcoming week. And in fact, today's winner will be meeting Mr. Bob Chase from Kansas City. Let's see who they are today. From Houston, Texas, say hello to Don Ellis. Don, good to see you.
How are you today, Jack?
Fine, thank you. You've moved from Chicago, so I imagine that you have a lot of friends here.
Yes, this is like old home week. Actually, I lived within about 10 miles of the Hoffman Estates here when I lived in Chicago.
So we have a hometown flavor because your opponent is also from here.
Yes, in fact, I bowled 1 year on a team with Andy.
And he's talking about Mr. Andy Rocogznica. Andy?
Pleasure to be here.
I finally learned how to pronounce your name, Andy.
It is a little hard.
Good to see you.
Same here.
You two gentlemen bowled together on one team, right?
Yes, we did. We bowled with the team out of Chicago.
And amongst your many accomplishments, back in '62, you were the winner of the Birmingham Open, too?
Yes, I won that last year.
Mm-hmm. And Don, I guess you're still living off the glory of the Peterson title that you won, and why not? But although it's been a few years ago.
Yes, everybody wants to know what I did with the money, but that's been spent years ago.
55, yeah, I guess it is. None of it left?
Not a thing.
You're going to have to go out and get some here today.
I'm in favor of that.
But I'm not rooting for him in particular, Andy.
Well, I'll try and do my best.
The lanes are in great shape?
They sure are.
No excuses?
That's for sure.
Andy Rocogznica and Don Ellis, and good luck to both of you.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're all set here at the Hoffman Lanes, all set to enjoy Top Star Bowling. We introduce Don Ellis to you first of all, and Don will be leading off on lane number 30 here. So let's see how we start. Seems like he might be there, and there's no better way to start than that. As Don Ellis cracks one on 30, gets the strike, and Andy Rocogznica will now be up on 29. Andy Rocogznica is one of the few foreign-born bowlers who have reached the heights, and Andy ranks right up there with the best of them. Let's see if he can match that strike that Don Ellis threw. He did not, as he leaves the 6-10. And so Don Ellis gets the better start here in the first match. This is total pins. We haven't explained to you as yet. A 3-game match and total pins count. Andy Rocogznica will shoot the 6-10 as he continues along. Don Ellis, who's from Houston, started with the strike. Andy has a lot of his friends out here rooting for him as he converts the spare. We indicated to you that he is from Chicago. Married, 2 daughters. His wife, Frances, is on hand to see if he can't come up with $1,000 and, just as important, earn the right to stay around for another week to take on another opponent who, in this particular case, will be Bob Chase from Kansas City. On 30, let's see if he can hit 30 as Don Ellis did. The ball came up nicely for him, a fine working ball, and so after a spare, he gets the strike, 20 in the first frame with the strike up, and Don Ellis will be trying to get out in front of the match with the double right here as he bowls on 29. Got that ball out there beautifully, and it really did the job for him. He really gets that ball out there. I'm sure that after watching him today, you'll rank Don Ellis along with some of the other real smoothies in this game of bowling. And I'm talking about their bowling delivery. And, a name like Joe Joseph comes to mind, a fellow with a real smooth delivery. And you can note how Don Ellis really gets that ball out there, fully extended as he releases it. Going for 3. And he didn't hit 30 this time as he did in the first frame. And Andy Rocogznica will therefore have a chance when he comes back to pick up a double of his own and perhaps gain an advantage depending on what Don Ellis does with the 7-pin here. Throwing right at that 7-pin, the ball walking in there for him, and we've had no opens so far here in the early going in game number 1. 3-game match, total pins, $1,000 first prize, $500 to the loser, Andy Rocogznica on 29, bowling in his 3rd frame. And looking for a double. He's right on that head pin, crossed over, avoided the split, and once again leaves the 6-10. So he did that in the first frame and comes back to do it in the 3rd frame. Very consistent, although in this particular case, I'm sure he would prefer not to have been so consistent. So he'll be going for the 6-10. Working on a strike. And up nicely it comes. A few of the fans here took a deep breath, thinking perhaps he was going to run by that 10-pin, but he covered them both very nicely. With me and here at the microphone is Whitey Harris of the Brunswick staff. Gentleman has won quite a few titles in his own right. You'll be hearing from him as we go along with very pointed comments. Let's see if Andy can hit this lane again. And he leaves a 10-pin, a good hit. And I note a few of the better-known bowlers here in the audience, and we'll get a chance perhaps a bit later on to point them out to you. Gave it a shake of the head, thinking that Andy had a good hit in there, and it appeared that he was going to get the strike as he did in the 2nd frame, but he leaves the 10. He's been shooting the right side of the alley quite often. This is his 3rd time, and for the 3rd time he covers his spare. He has 59 through the 3rd frame with the spare up. And here's a chance for Don Ellis to pick up a 10-pin lead if he can whack one right here. Ellis hit 29 before, and he spins that 7-pin around, and he finally dropped it. He really got a lot of action with that ball. It was really churning in there. A fine working ball for Don. So he's had 3 strikes out of the 4 frames so far, but only the 1 double, and so Andy Rocogznica is still very much in the picture, being 10 pins down to Don Ellis right at the moment. Looking for his 2nd double of the match. He gets tapped with that 10-pin as he wrapped that 6 right around it. And, of course, it'd be rather difficult to interpret the attitude on the part of the opponent. I know he didn't want to see him get that double, but at the same time, he had to feel for him because that was a dandy hit. Now, Don Ellis shooting the 10-pin. And we've had no opens in the match so far, and this might be typical of the sort of action that we're going to have throughout. Bowling in his 5th frame now, Andy Rocogznica. He's working on a spare. A bit high, leaves the 4-7. So Andy has had but the 1 strike so far in the 5 frames. And he's down 10 pins at this point. So if he covers, it'll appear that both will be working on a spare when they bowl in the 6th frame. 4-7 looking at Andy Rocogznica. So still no opens. And at the end of 5 frames here in our first game, Don Ellis has 89 through the 4th with a spare up. Andy Rocogznica 77 with a spare up. And so Don Ellis is 12 pins ahead. Now don't go away because very shortly we'll be starting the 2nd game of the match. Rocogznica continuing along, bowling in the 6th frame, looking for that strike to work on. He's had but 1 strike so far. That looks like it might be good, and Even though it did come up just a bit high at the tail end, really moving in there for him, he finally did carry that 7-pin. It was there sitting and looking at him for a while, but it finally toppled over and a big grin came across Andy's face. Now Ellis working on a spare. He didn't quite get up there this time, and he leaves the 2-5. The ball was late coming up for him, and he knew, you could tell from his action at the on the approach and at the foul line, that he wasn't going to get in there with that one. So 107 through the 5th frame for Don Ellis. Shooting the 2-5. It'll be a chance for Rocogznica when he comes up again, if he can double to pretty much even this match. There are a couple of ways to miss that one, but Don Ellis didn't do it. Now he goes over to 30. Whitey, it's nip and tuck so far. 3 strikes for Ellis and 2 for Rocogznica.
I think this was apparent there, Jack, when Don on this particular lane, our left lane, left the almost a 2-4-5 bucket. And that means that he was a little light on his hip. Usually he's been hitting pretty solid.
We watch Ellis on 30. He's been hitting 30 very well. That one came up, and the 7-pin remains. He had a lot of action in there, but things just didn't go properly for him. Can't hit him much better than that, can you? That gives Don 126 through the 6th frame. Be bowling in the 7th. In our audience here, we have Don Carter, Buzz Fazio. They'll be here on future weeks. Don covers the 7-pin. In addition, the prize money for which these men are competing, a very fine watch, will be presented to each of the bowlers on the show. This is the biggest one in the match so far for Andy, looking for that double, crossed over and didn't get the Brooklyn that he was hoping for as he leaves the 5-9. So Andy missed a chance to close things a little bit. And if he covers here, he'll be 9 pins behind through the 7th frame. As I indicated about another of the setups, there are a few ways to miss this one, but Andy didn't do it. Covered them very nicely. 5-9 goes down, and Andy has 117 through the 6th frame. He's had only 2 strikes, and he didn't put those together. Don Ellis had 1 double. He started with a double, and that's made the difference in the match so far. And the strike for Andy. Andy gets perhaps his best hit of the match so far, right, Whitey?
Yes, that was solid, Jack. He was inside that second rangefinder out there.
Mm-hmm. Now Ellis working on a spare. Whoops, and over the line he goes and lost the strike as he fouls. What happened there?
It looks like he had a little problem. Perhaps it might have been his shoe, Jack. And, of course, that is a foul. He went completely over the foul line with his front foot, although the foul light indicator didn't go on.
Of course, we have a foul judge prevailing here, and that takes care of that situation. It is a foul, and so Don's going to have to drop 10 of them for the spare. He loses the spare count, of course, in the 7th frame, and comes back very, very nicely. Comes back very nicely. He had a little shake of the head, and you can see that he's a bit perturbed, but Don is a fellow with a rather even temperament. You could see it very well displayed there as he committed a foul, and he wasn't poking around up there looking for any excuses. He fouled, and he knew it, and came back and did something about it. And that's why he is ranked as he is amongst the top bowlers. Getting late in the first game, a good ball and a double. So, you up-and-coming bowlers could learn something right there. Not to be upset by adversity such as a foul, because even the best of them do it. The point is to do something about it, as Don Ellis did. And now Andy Rocogznica has to get his double to match the double of Don Ellis. He's in his 9th frame, and he buries one. That's his double. Don Ellis in that 8th frame, of course, was credited with a spare, and so he doesn't have that double that I indicated, but he does have that strike in the 9th frame to work on when he comes up in the roll-off here. Here's Andy going into his 10th frame. He just picked up his first double of the match. He has the lead. Let's see if he can hold it here in the 10th frame. He threw that one way out. That ball, you just knew, wouldn't be coming up that much for him. The line that he'd been using, he was way out with that one. Has to bring it back here in the 10th frame for a spare. He has 164 through the 8th frame, giving him a possible 184 in the 9th and a possible 204 game. And Don Ellis could come back and still win the first game, despite the foul, with a 216. And he covers it very nicely. And now a 10 count for Andy will give him a 204 game, and if Don goes all the way in the roll-off, he'll have 216. Andy looking for the big count, and once again just did get up to that head pin, carries 7 of them. 201. So here in the first game of a 3-game match where total pins count, Andy Rocogznica ends with a 201. Let's see what Don Ellis can do. He's looking for a double. He started with a double. A foul cost him another double. Here he is in the 10th frame on the lane where he fouled, and he leaves the 6-pin. .196 is his conceivable high right at this point. 201 is what Andy Rocogznica finished with. And the Texan converts. We've had no opens in this first game, and so the cameras and the audience have failed to perturb these people. We'll get a chance as we go along here in the minutes ahead to find out from Don himself what happened in that 8th frame. Looking for a 10 count right here, and he gets it. He gets it. And so he's 5 pins down right at this point. The first game of the match, Andy Rocogznica, 201. Don Ellis, 196. The first game of this match, in which total pins counts, went to Andy Rocogznica with a 201 and a 196 for Don Ellis. We have a brief moment here to talk to one of the bowlers. We're going to ask Don Ellis if he come up here for just a moment. As Don comes up, I'm sure he knows what I'm going to ask him, and so I won't even ask him.
Well, I just stuck a little there, Jack, and when I did, I lost my balance, and I had to fall forward or fall flat down. So I had to foul or else.
I noticed that it didn't bother you.
Well, it did. It would have bothered me a lot more if I wasn't lucky enough to get the strike right back again.
But I think you made a point for the bowlers who are looking in, Don, that you, even if it did bother you, you can't let it upset your entire game.
No, if you let something like it upset you, you'll be gone for 4 or 5 frames before you can get settled down again.
And as you look back at it, and I hope you're not looking back at it too much throughout, that's what the difference is in the match.
Right.
Don, good luck to you as you continue along.
Thank you.
Okay, and the first game, 201 for Andy Rocogznica, 196 for Don Ellis, and we're about to watch the second game here on Top Star Bowling. Andy Rocogznica getting us off and running here in the first frame of the second game. Andy with a 5-pin lead. On 30, and seems to be in a good spot, and he was in a good spot. That, I would say, Whitey Harris, is just about the place Andy wants to lay that ball down.
Yes, through the first game, Jack, he was trying to get that ball inside of the second arrow, and it looks like he's there now in this right at lane.
And Don Ellis on 29 matches him. You thought I called it too quickly, didn't you? Huh?
I thought that was a pretty good action by the Brunswick Kingpins, the way they fell over back there.
Don Ellis will be looking for a double now to get started. He started the first game with a double, you'll recall. Then couldn't hit with any degree of regularity until the close of that first game. Out in bombing one, and beautiful action that time. A fine double for Don Ellis, and Andy Rocogznica has a lead with which he cannot relax, of course. 201 to 196, and he has to match the Texan right here. But he has a strike working for himself. Oh, there's a real stopper right there. I thought it was a bit high, but I didn't think he deserved that 710 which he got. But that's bowling, the 710, the 810. Where do some of these things come from? And that's what makes the game the terrific game that it is. And as we go along, why, we're going to have the top stars of bowling here week after week. And you, I guarantee you, will not be able to pick the winner every week with any degree of consistency, because things like you just saw oftentimes do happen, and one of these bowlers on any particular day is just as good as the next guy. Now Andy Rocogznica stopped by that split, and by the way, that's the first open of the match and the first split that we've had. Andy's going to have to get started again as he rolls in the third frame. Let's see if the split bothering him. He could get another right here. He ends with a 6-7, and so he has lost the line momentarily. But we have a long way to go. We're here early in the second game of the match, and already that 5-pin lead that he had at the close of the first game has disappeared. And when you look at the double that Don Ellis started with, you can see Andy Rocogznica getting in trouble and threw that one off to the side. Didn't get the 1 pin that I'm sure he wanted, but he was going for the bundle, trying to get that one out and trying to get it to come up to take care of that split. Couldn't do it. Now Don's looking for 3 in a row. Ooh, that's his second real tough tap. Got tapped in the 5th frame of the first game, and that's his second one so far, and Andy Rocogznica can be thankful for that one, because we were watching a real hot bowler for just a moment. You recall how he closed his first game out and then came back with a double and stopped by the 10-pin. We had a few of the people gasping here in the audience. They didn't have as much faith in the hook Don throws as Don did himself, because he looked relaxed up there. That gives him 49 through the second frame with a spare up, bowling in the 4th frame. Don is from Houston, as we told you. For a while he lived up here in Chicago and did an awful lot of traveling, a lot of commuting on weekends in addition to entering the various tournaments. Now living back in Houston. There's his ball. So 3 out of his 4 frames have been strikes. It gives him 69 through the 3rd with a strike up. And he has a 33-pin lead in this game, hence a 28-pin lead over Andy Rocogznica so far today. Andy with 2 splits, and on the head pin again, and just did avoid a split as he leaves a 3-pin. It's quite obvious, I would say, that Don has the better line on this particular pair of the 2 bowlers. But things change, and change in a hurry. But you have to get that starting point. And he's shooting the 3-pin. Covers, has a spare in the 4th frame. Gives up in the 5th, looking for that all-important strike one to begin with. Andy from Yugoslavia, living here in Chicago now. He's bowled on some very fine teams. In fact, his team of accomplishments outshine his individual accomplishments. And once again, he failed to get in there. 2-5. He was working on a spare, so that gives him 54 through the 4th frame. Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia. I know where he's from, but have to have a little intrigue in the show. Andy with 2 spares in a row now. 54 through the 4th frame with a spare up in the 5th. Don Ellis working on a strike, looking for another double to further get out in front of Andy, whom he leads now by 33 pins. And he's really throwing that ball in there, and you recall that tap that he had, and so there's the double for Don Ellis. And so at the end of 5 frames here in the second game, Andy Rocogznica has 54 through the 4th with a spare up. Don Ellis 69 through the 3rd with a double up. Let's listen to a message right here before we get around to the action in the 3rd and final game of our match. Ellis looking for the turkey and didn't get it. We have yet to have that 3-bagger here, but Don has 2 doubles going for him in this particular match, and a substantial lead over Andy. Two, 4, 5, and Don Ellis covers that very nicely, and scoring quite well here. Whitey?
Jack, you noticed there on Don, he did recover from the time he fouled because that was the first time he missed the pocket in 7 frames.
Let's see what Andy can do, working on a spare, bowling in the 6th frame. On the head pin again, but he carried one. A rather sheepish grin on his face as he gets a strike, his 2nd strike of this game and his 6th today. And now he needs that double to start scoring and closing the gap. He trails by 42 pins at the moment. Hit that one on the nose, but carried. Now he'll probably lay one in there and get tapped. That's America. And he leaves a 5-pin. And there's not much to blame except yourself when you leave that 5-pin, the ball failing to carry through there for him. So he failed to get that double. But he's still very much in the match. Shooting the 5-pin and covers. You know, these bowlers, when they shoot that 5-pin, they make it meaningful because they're watching the path of that ball, and they'll be employing that knowledge when they throw for their next strike. Now, you'll recall in the match so far that Andy Rocogznica won the first game 201 to 196, but this one seems to belong to Don Ellis, who is bowling here in the 7th frame, working on a spare. On the lane to the left, and that ball did nothing for him as he leaves the 258, giving him 133 through the 6th frame, but he's still in great shape with an overall lead of 37 pins. That's going to cut it down somewhat. We'll wait and see how he does as he tries to convert the spare. At least late here in the 2nd game, it's going to give Andy Rocogznica a chance, and that ball was strong enough to carry through for him. And so Don has had no opens so far. The only opens so far are the 2 splits that have really hurt Andy in this game in the 2nd and 3rd frames. Eighth frame now, and getting late in this game, and Don would like to have a strike, and he gets it. That's his 5th strike in this game. He had 4 in the 1st. And so, considering the 2 taps that he's had, along with the foul, why, he has this pair pretty well fathomed, Don Ellis does. Andy has been struggling trying to find the line here in the 2nd game after doing rather well in the 1st game. Let's see how he does as he works on a spare. And he answers the call. He bombs one. And that gives him 114 through the 7th frame. They each have a strike working in the 8th. However, Don Ellis still has an overall lead of 34 pins in the match. He was outside with that one. He just put the ball down in the wrong spot. He knew as soon as he released the ball that he wasn't going to get the double he was looking for. And he leaves the 1, 2, 4, 7, leaves the rail. He's left the rail all along in this 2nd game. This 9th frame so important, and particularly when Don Ellis will have a chance to hit in the 9th and double. And he got the action. He darn near closed himself out in this game, but that 4-pin gave it to him. Now Don Ellis working on a strike and bowling in the 9th frame with a lead of 34 pins in the 2 games so far. He was out there too, but he came up. Whitey seemed to be a little further out with that one than he had been, but the ball moved for him quite a bit. A fine hook and a good working ball. Now down in the roll-off. .243 if he goes all the way. At a 196 in the 1st game. And another 10-pin. That's his 3rd one today. And that's the only thing that has stopped him from compiling a really high score. However, nonetheless, it's quite obvious he's going to have a substantial lead when the second game is over. But things change. They changed in this game. Might very well do in the third game of the match. Shooting at 10-pin, Don covers. He still hasn't had an open, and that's made a big difference. So he spares in the 10th frame and a possible 222. Do you agree with me that Don is one of the smoothest of the bowlers? He didn't get that head pin, but he got the good pin count in a 221 game. 221. Now Andy working on a spare, and he's in the 10th frame. He knew what he was doing there. He didn't fool around when he walked up there. He knew what he was going to do, and he knew he was going to put that ball down. He got the strike. He has to strike out for 174. Don Ellis has the two-game total of 417. And Andy will not be able to hit the 400 mark, no matter what he does right here. And he can't strike out, leaving the 245 and a possible 174. That would give him 375. So he'll be down 42 pins at the end of this game if he takes these three right now. And he does, finishing with 174 and 375 and a 42-pin difference. In the second games, it was Don Ellis 221, Andy Rocogznica 174. Well, we have a 42-pin difference as we await the start of the third game in this match where total pins count. 42-pin lead for Don Ellis. We want to call up his opponent, Andy Rocogznica, right here and find out what caused him to go from 201 and a 5-pin lead down to 174 and a 42-pin deficit. Andy, what happened to it?
Must be bad bowling.
I don't know what you want me to say now, but I'll say anything you want.
Your turn now.
Andy, you lost the line there for a while.
I never had it. No, I'm trying to get a little speed, and I can't get it. Every time I try for a little more speed, I seem to squeeze the ball, and I slide it out there, and then the next one I relax a little bit, and I punch the nose again. So I'll go back to the fighting game. Punch him in the nose. That's the best way.
So speed is the one factor that you've been unable to handle so far.
I'm a little slow out there. At least I think I am, but I can't seem to pick up that speed. I put some tape in the ball now, hoping that I can get a little better swing with the ball and get it on the sharp.
Where'd you put the tape?
On the thumb hole. Get a little better grip. You know, squeeze it a little bit.
Don Ellis just took it out over there.
Yeah, well, if I was bowling as good as he was, I would too.
Andy, good luck to you in this final match.
Thank you.
Okay, the difference is 42 pins. We're here in Top Star Bowling and about to watch the third and final game. You folks all set for the action forthcoming here? You have your favorite selected? Who are you going to root for? Okay, we're coming around to the big finale here on Top Star Bowling. With a 417 total for the two games, Don Ellis up to start things off on 30. He hasn't had too much trouble with his pocket. He gets started here. Of course, the big difference has been the fact that Don has had no opens, including, despite the fact he committed a foul. And Andy Rocogznica was hit with two splits in a row in the second and third frames of the second game. And inasmuch as the difference is 42 pins, you can just about lay your finger on the cause for the difference. There it is, Bob. I hope that you folks find it interesting to know what these expert bowlers think about and what they try to do to correct their game, or what they try to do to continue their good game when they're knocking them down as they desire to. They each start with a strike in the third game. And I wonder if you can notice any difference in the speed of the delivery on the part of Andy. Trying to get a little more speed. He got that one out there pretty good. Got it in there very nicely. So there's a double. He might make some noise before this one is over, Whitey.
I think you give him a pretty good pep talk there, Jack. It seems like he is more relaxed. He is letting the ball go freer.
Now, don't say that, because Ellis will blame me if Andy comes back to win it. Ellis gets a double, too. So we have doubles on the part of each bowlers to start this game number 3. Don Ellis with a 417 total for the 2 games. Andy with 375. Don looking for the first 3-bagger of the day. He's on the head pin, on the nose, and he leaves the 610. So that gives an opportunity for his opponent, Andy Rocogznica, and don't think that he isn't aware of it. If he can keep his string going, he can be right back in the middle of this and earn not only the $1,000, but the right to stay around and be on hand here at the Hoffman Lanes next week to meet Bob Chase. 610. Oh, he chopped it off. And there's a further opportunity. So this strike right here for Andy would really be something. In addition to the money we've been talking about, there's a very attractive watch waiting for each of the men involved here, which we'll be happy to present at the end of the match. But watch this one. It's a big one. He crossed over. He got it. You see, there's one of the things about it. It's a difficult thing. It's one thing to talk about changing speed and maintaining your style at the same time, but the odds are you're going to be doing something else as you increase your speed. And Andy, I'm sure, feels quite fortunate to carry that Brooklyn. That's 3 in a row for him. He has really chopped into the lead. And Don Ellis enjoyed. And can get further into it with one right here, and it looks good to me. There's 4, and we've got plenty of action, plenty of excitement, and we're happy you tuned in, and we are hoping that you feel the same way about it. Don't go away because, well, you don't know what's going to happen. It's only a 13-pin difference right now, and Ellis has to get started again and leaves the 4-pin. You would have to say that he's had a little tough luck, and more tough luck than his opponent. However, on the other hand, you have to look at Andy and admire his perseverance hanging in there, and against such a good bowler as Ellis, 42 pins down, he has come right back. Four-pin and the mark. In that 3rd frame, it was the very first open that Don Ellis had as he left the 10-pin. Now spare in the 4th frame. He's up in the 5th, and Andy Rocogznica has 4 strikes working for him. Trying to get back in the groove. He started with a double, and now he comes on another strike again in the 5th frame for Don Ellis. Now Andy with 4 in a row, bowling in the 5th frame. It's rather difficult to ascertain the exact pin count here at this point. It depends on what Andy does right here. And he's looking for his 5th. And he leaves the 4-pin. Leaves the 4-pin. The crowd was really rooting for him and moaning, wanting him to close the gap even more, but he has closed it quite a bit at that. He started with a 42-pin deficit. And here at in the 5th frame, he'll be shooting for the spare after getting off that string. Okay, he covered it. So things are pretty well set for the last half of the match. Don Ellis has 76 through the 4th with a strike up. Andy has 109 through the 4th with a spare up. And that's the way it stands at the end of the 5th frame of the 3rd game. Andy bowling in the 6th frame, trying to get started again. Looks like he hit his mark and gets his strike. He's got the crowd rooting for him, and I'm sure it's only because he was the underdog at the outset of this 3rd game, because both Don and Andy are very admirable fellows. There's only a 9-pin difference, and Don Ellis has that lead. And sweeps for a double. He He was taking a mighty deep breath when he was walking back toward us after getting that double. Looked like it might have been a bit too light, but that ball of his turned through there, giving him plenty of action. That 10-pin finally went over for him. He's been tapped 3 times today, but not that time. Now looking for 3 in a row. He's yet to put 3 in a row together. That might be it. Nope, 4-pin again. He was really turning that ball over and getting it out there. So he's off his string of strikes. Remember that Andy has a strike working for him in the 6th frame. The difference so far in the overall match is 18 pins. Don Ellis with an 18-pin lead. And the spare. Now let's see what Andy can do. See if he can double. Further chopped into that lead. I was going to say enjoyed by Don Ellis. I'm sure he's not enjoying it. Got that one out there, and on the head pin leaves the 6th end. He needs every strike he can get right at this point. Certainly closed it, made it very interesting. First game went to Andy, 201 to 196. Don Ellis came back, 221 to 174. Now in this match, Andy has a 24-pin advantage in this particular game, but still trails by 18 as he tries for the spare in the 7th frame, and he did what Don did before. He did what Don did before, chopping that 6 off the 10, and that really hurt him. It really hurt him because we're getting late. We only have 3 frames remaining. And everybody, including Andy, knows that he has to put some X's up there in the scoreboard for himself. Eighth frame. Is he there? There's a beautiful ball. A beautiful ball. We still don't know where the big money is going to go. Each man with a chop. Ellis now working on a spare, and in the 8th, he gets one to work on. He gets that big strike to match his opponent. Of course, I was rooting for Ellis in this particular match. We'll look back on the Brooklyn that Andy had for his 3rd strike in the game, but they all count. And Down can't get that one off the scoreboard, and he still hasn't wrapped this one up. Looking for a double, bowling in the 9th frame. There's a 30-pin lead right at this point. And where did that thing come from? There's an 8-pin looking right at him. Where did that one come from? And for a double, too. Well, one thing it's going to do is prolong the excitement and keep the outcome of the match in doubt, because Andy has a strike up in the 8th form. Shooting the 8-pin, getting the spare, 165 with a spare up in the 9th, and now Andy working on a strike in the 9th frame. He needs one right here. And he gets one right there. Now there's the double for him. He is 22 pins above Don in this one. Only 20 pins down at this point. The double would chop further into that to 10 pins. It's only a 20-pin difference right at this point. Is Andy there with his 3rd in a row? That's 3 strikes for him. Gives him 187 through the 8th frame. Now the difference is 20 pins. Started with a deficit of 42. Possible 247.
Hurry.
And he didn't quite get up there. As he leaves the 245. 234 possibility for him. And he covers with 3 of them. 234 is his final. Don Ellis will get 235 if he, well, not 235, 215 if he goes all the way. Well, that must do it. He wanted to stay away from the split, and he did. He leaves the 4-7.
All he has to do is pick the fair, Jack, and then that'll definitely give him the match with a 6-19 if he strikes.
So Andy made quite a run for it, putting 4 together at the outset, and then 3 strikes in the 8th, 9th, and 10th. But Don needs this one. Needs to cover the 4-7 for the $1,000, and he does. Giving him 215 in this game. Therefore, 205 rather. 196 for Don Ellis. 221. And now if he hits 205 and a 622 total. 609 was the final total for Andy Rocogznica. And he gets the 10. And it turns out it's a 203 total for Don Ellis, giving him 196, 221, and 203 for a 620 total, and an 11-pin win over his opponent, Andy Rocogznica. We had a different leader a couple of times, but when it was all over, it was Don Ellis with 620 and Andy Rocogznica with 609. And I know that you enjoyed the bowling. Let's meet the fellas right now and give them their just rewards up here. Don and Andy, just rewards up here. Don and Andy. Don, congratulations to you.
Thank you, Jack.
Andy, here's a very fine. That'll help with that speed that bothered you in the green.
I can time it now.
I can see you going up there. Huh? And also for the winner, Don Ellis, a very attractive awards. Don?
Very nice. Wonderful.
And should we take care of the money aspects of things right now?
Well, that's what we're looking for.
Now, I want to talk to you for a little while, so I better hang on to the money because you might be heading right back for Houston, but don't go too far or too soon because you have to be back here next week.
Well, these jets, we can run down there and come back for real quick.
Well, your opponent's going to be Bob Chase next
Oh,
week.
my. They don't get any easier, do they?
No, they don't. But you'd like to have a crack at it, huh?
I'd look forward to bowling him.
You'd like to be here with us all along.
I'd like to see you out here every match, right?
Andy, for the benefit of the bowlers, that the one item, the speed, is the thing that bothered you and probably made the difference, but I must congratulate you on the run you made for it in the final game.
Well, as it turned out, it was a fairly close match. There for a while, I thought it was going to be a runaway. Don bowled real good. He bowled good every game. I only bowled good the last game, and I made a match out of it, but shouldn't have been that close. He should have been about 50 pins ahead of me at the time, or 60 pins.
Should you have been?
I'd have liked to have been. He was making it too close there, too close for comfort.
Of course, you set the pattern for him when you chopped that 6 off the 10.
I was kind of glad in a way that he's watching me. That helped.
But it isn't the reason you did it, is it, Andy?
Well, I want to be a nice guy. There's too many lousy guys in this world, so I figured I'd chop it up.
Let's take care of the money right here. Here's $500 for you, Andy, and I know that the folks enjoyed watching you, and it's a pleasure to be with you.
It was my pleasure to be here, and I'd like to thank everybody that was participating here, and spectators and everybody associated with the show.
Very wonderful sport. Andy Rocogznica. Thank you. And our winner here on Top Star Bowling from Houston, Texas, $1,000 for Don Ellis. Don, congratulations
Thank you very much,
to you.
Jack.
You had a very worthy opponent, too.
Very worthy. You know, he talks like he's from Texas there. Some of that stuff he's putting out. I swear up and down, he's down my way.
But the money goes to the Texans all the time, it seems.
We hope.
We will see you next week with Bob Chase. What about Bob Chase? What can you tell us about his style and all that?
Well, he's a very good bowler. He's got a full roller, and he's very dangerous anytime. He's, I understand, been bowling extremely well here lately, too.
So you get him when he's hot.
It always seems like that.
And it should be more fun. Once again, thank you very much, Don, and congratulations to you.
Thank you very much, Jack. See you next week.
620 for Don Ellis, and it was 609 for Andy Rocogznica. We've been here at the Hoffman Lanes, And very well-conditioned lanes they are. I'm sure you'll agree, a very pleasant atmosphere in Hoffman Estates, Illinois, here on Top Star Bowling. And these folks are going to be coming in. And by the way, I mentioned the ladies at the beginning of the show. And twice during this particular series, where $40,000 is involved, we're going to have some of the top lady bowlers come in here. And I'm certain that you're going to enjoy the matches that they put on as well. And as I started to say, the top flight bowlers, top star bowlers coming from all over the country to compete for this $1,000 first prize and then stay around for the following week to take on another formidable opponent. 6:20 for Don Ellis, a seesaw battle, and we can pretty much promise you the same sort of action week after week. And 6:09 for Andy Rocogznica. This is Jack Buck from the Hoffman Lanes, where we'll be next week saying thanks for your time this time. Till next time, so long. Top Star Bowling is sanctioned by the American Bowling Congress.